Christos Anesti.
Αληθώς Ανέστη.
Okay. I'll try. Είμαι χαρούμενος που βρίσκομαι στην ομόρφη
I'm happy to be in the beautiful and historical and biblical city of Thessalonica.
Okay. Lipon, now I go to English. Okay, so I have 5 minutes, I think.
5 minutes. 5.5.
5. I try to stick to it. So, Christian values in the field of international politics. Christian values in the field of international politics is the title of our session. As a social scientist, I see two variables. I see Christian values and I see international politics, and I'm trying to measure the relationship between those two variables. So the first thing to do in a scientific way is, and a little bit like what Carlton was saying, is, well, you have to define what are your variables, what are the borders, what is a Christian value, and that's important, and to have very clear, because we've heard it 50 or 100 times over the last 2 days, Christian values, very important. What are they? And the second one, what is international politics? I'll come to that. But first on what are Christian values? I think it's important to ask also why you would promote Christian values. There is probably an underlying assumption that it's good to promote Christian values, but why? Should you promote them because they are Christian values? So, in other words, they are better than Jewish values or Muslim values or secular values? Or should you promote them because they are good in themselves, because they contribute to the common good, because they are universal values? So it's a question. Why should we promote Christian values? What is international politics? And first of all, spoiler alert, I can't speak about international politics. I know nothing about it. I don't work for an international organization. I'm working for the European Parliamentary Research Service, the European Parliament. It's a supranational organization. And it's important it's not just semantics, it's a distinction. Supranational, it's above the nation state. Some people might react badly to that and say sovereignty, sovereignty, sovereignty. It's above the nation state because now 27 nation states decided to put it above the nation state for certain matters. And to say we want the European Court to have the last word on certain things, so we have clear rule of law, understanding. We want certain policies to be done on the European level because it's more efficient, because there's a cross-border dimension, a global dimension, and so on. So that's actually, I'm on a panel for international, but it's a supranational organization that I work for. And then when we talk about international politics, are we talking about the legal framework? We had a very detailed and good expose by Director General Papas about the Lisbon Treaty and the precursors to the Lisbon Treaty. So are we talking about that, the legal documents? That's where we want Christian values? Are we talking about the institutions, the Commission, the Parliament, the Court, the Council? Is that where we want Christian values? In other words, in the people, in the procedures, in the public spaces of those institutions? Or are we talking about the politics, as the Germans would say, the Auseinandersetzung, the back and forth, the arguments, the discussions? Is that what we're talking about, politics? And in that politics, in the European dimension? Is it acceptable to talk about Christian values? Is it acceptable to talk about religious values if you're not Christian? And is it useful to talk about Christian values? Does it bring anything to the debate, apart from declaring what your own affiliation is? Does it improve the debate? Does it increase the chance of finding a resolution, a solution to a problem? You know, we talked about, a number of people talked about the founding fathers, Adenauer, Schumann, de Gasperi. Sorry to say, they were all founding fathers. At that time, there were very few, if any, women in politics. I don't know if anything has changed, but apologies that there are no women on this panel. You know, if I were speaking in Brussels on a panel of the European Parliament, I would have to leave the room because my internal regulation forbids me to be on a panel where there isn't gender balance. But I leave that aside. So that's equality, which is a European value, also maybe a Christian value. I just mention it. But you know, the founding fathers, most of them were committed, convinced Christians. And it's very clear from the design of the European Union that they wanted that to be a Christian project of peace and reconciliation after the war, never again the worst horrors committed in our continent. That was the essence of it. But they consciously, as practicing Christians, did not name Christian values and Christianity in the founding documents. It was a conscious decision by these people with their personalist philosophical background where they wanted to be engaged as Christians in the public sphere, but it didn't need to have the label here. So it's important to remember that when we talk about going back to the roots and so on. One last one. I may be exceeding the time, and I know I've gone over the time. Thank you for your indulgence. Nice. And I know some people had to leave, but it's wonderful that some of the young people and the students have stayed here, and I hope that they have an opportunity to take the floor and hear what they say, the future of Europe has to say about all these older people's comments. My last comment is to go back to my original question about what are Christian values and what are European values or universal values. We heard also talking about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was also underpinned by a similar level of Christian commitment of most of the key drafters. Article 2, which has been cited before, of the Treaty of European Union, Lisbon Treaty, the Union is founded on the following values: human dignity. Where did you hear that before? Human dignity. Freedom, democracy, equality, the rule of law, respect for human rights, including the rights of personhood, belonging to minorities. That's the basis, the legal basis, which must inform every single proposal made by the European Commission to the Parliament and the member states in the Council. They're the ones who take the decisions, not the officials, on the basis of these values. If it doesn't respect those values, it can be struck down ultimately by the court. So these are the values. They are European values. Are they also Christian values, would you say? I leave that question for the discussion. Thank you very much.
Feidas, κοίταξε, επειδή θέλω να υπερασπιστώ τους.
I want to defend the conference. There are no ladies on the panel, but just take a look at how many girls we have among the audience. Plenty of them. Well, let's start with questions. Just stay for a couple of minutes with us. Congratulations to the panelists. It was a highly interesting discussion. Two questions. One goes to you, Mr. Arvanitis. I was a bit confused in relation to what you mentioned, I don't know if I understood correctly, that the Greek way of life is understandable since there are Jews, Muslims, etc. But you are a bit challenged with the European way of life. So you accept the Greek way of life? Why couldn't you accept the European way of life? Why reject that? It's an honest question. And one more question. You used the term instrumentalization. What did you mean exactly in relation to religion? You said something else that impressed me, that the left is an instrument. The parties are instruments for democracy. That's what I meant. The parties are democratic tools. Your words were not too orthodox, quote unquote, if I've interpreted correctly.
Good question, please, to our minister from Czech Republic, Mr. Krast. So,
ελληνικά, γιατί δεν είναι. Όχι, με έχει το κάνει.
Συγχαρητήρια για την...
Congratulations on your presentation. I was truly impressed by the fact that you expressly mentioned the Russian Church, and the fact that you publicly stated that you are Orthodox, just like I am. This conference is about Christian values. The Russian Church has a specific social teaching. It was introduced in 2000 and was completed in 2008. The Christian values preached right now by the biggest Russian church, are they in line with how you understand religious values as a Czech Orthodox? If not, how can we, the Orthodox, submit a set of Christian rules to an organization I would describe as giant, quote unquote, a Caesar, quote unquote, and claim what our tradition could contribute to European culture, or the European way of life, although Mr. Avanidis dislikes this. Are we in unfavorable circumstances which weaken our efforts to play a leading part in creating culture in Europe? The fact that we have human rights, which also have a philosophical character, isn't it fortunate? Look, when you engage in a dialogue, you're well-intended. You listen, and I listen. I'm not infallible for the time being, nor is the left. We are synthesizing. Not because I have reservations, because I fully oppose Ms. von der Leyen's idea to create a portfolio, not just the defense, but also the promotion of European way of life. What if the Protestants dominate? We want to see them believe the same. What is the European way of life precisely? What does this mean exactly? I am for the defense of European principles and values, and that's a matter of ideology. It's interesting. Why not listen to a different voice? Because the devil is in details, you know, all over the European Union. I am cautious because I come from a small country, an Orthodox country, so I feel I need to be very careful about secret agendas. Number two, I'm pro-European, and the European Union is an inclusive union. That's why I'm so cautious. The extreme right, the fascist right wing in Europe today, try to instrumentalize religion themselves as a force that is in direct communication with God. You've seen icons of Virgin Mary being put up inside the European Parliament, threatening the political opponent with divine punishment just because they're opposing views. The answer to your second question is clear. The political parties, both left and right, are one more instrument as a vehicle or channel for ideas. Conduits, if you will. This is why people use them. Citizens use them. You belong to such and such a class, you support such and such party. You change class, you change party. Our political opponents are okay persons. We disagree on different matters. What I learned at the European Parliament is that we can synthesize. Democratic forces may reach a synthesis. I'm talking about EPP all the way to the left, from right to left. We have no dialogue with ECR or ID. We don't even speak to each other, particularly with ID. And there's nothing in common to discuss. We don't have anything common in our background. Many positive resolutions were passed in cooperation with MPs from different groups and parties. That's our job.
Yeah, if I understand your question correctly, you are asking me if I have read Social Politics of Russian Orthodox Church, which were published in 2000, if I agree with it. And my answer is very simple. It doesn't...
Sorry, but not only if you agree with it, but as Orthodox, how can exclude what they call Christian values in the name of traditional values from the biggest...
I think, I understand. I think I really know.
Followed by urban, followed by other countries.
I think I understand very well what Christian values are. I was raised up in it. My grandfather was Orthodox priest for 63 years, so I don't think I know what the Christian values are. And if you are asking me what is written by the Russian Orthodox Church, I don't think they are even Christians.
You don't think that?
No, because I think if they are now agreeing, if they are calling the war against our brothers in Ukraine as a holy war, I think they are something like Satanists, not Christians. Did I understand your question well?
Yes, but
I don't think, I don't care what is written in some documents. I think we have to act. We have to act and we have to say it very loud what they are doing. Patriarchy is blessing the arms, patriarchy is blessing the war, patriarchy is blessing to kill Orthodox innocent brothers, and I don't understand them as a Christians. That's why I put Christians in quoting.
You are clear and completely understood. But just a small detail. The Patriarch or official church is not the Russian or every other Orthodox church. There are 200 million faithful.
I mean today's organization called Russian Moscow Patriarchate. That's what I mean, not the Christians themselves.
We must be very careful.
Yes.
Especially during this phase of crisis that we face as Orthodox churches, and because this makes us weaker when we go in front of the institutions. Thank you.
I think what makes us weaker is that we are not saying loud that today's Moscow Patriarchate are not Christians. We have to say it loud.
Θες να πεις κάτι, ναι.
They are not following the Christian rules. They are not following Bible. They are not following dogmas, councils, anything. They are blessing, killing of brothers and sisters. That's not about the Orthodox people in Russia. I said there are many of them which are not agreeing with this. We don't hear them. Yeah.
Λοιπόν, έλα.
Πριν σας ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ, θέλω να σας ευχαριστήσω.
Thank you very much. I wish to thank you. We believe that this war shouldn't happen and could have been avoided. In no case can we turn a blind eye to Russian invasion, because we have one more invasion with occupation troops in Cyprus, and a Democrat, conservative Greek cannot turn a blind eye to that. I was member of parliament. The necessary action to avert this was not taken, and frankly speaking, I can say today I'm very angry, although politicians should not act in anger. I'm very angry at the fact that the European Union does nothing to stop this bloodshed. Right now, at the moment we're speaking, Ukrainian mothers are taking the children dead, and Russian mothers are taking their young boys dead. Well, with the end be? Ask Ursula von der Leyen. What's the objective? I disagreed with the war in Iraq, but I knew the objective. The army wanted to take Baghdad. What is the objective here? Reach the Red Square and oust Putin. We're losing lives every day, and the financial burden for Europe is huge. To conclude, let me say that the European Union has both the financial and the economic possibility to act as a stabilizing force. Stop this war. First of all, Russian troops should return. The powerful may not decide on borders. This is unacceptable. Number two, pay for the damages inflicted on the Russian population and Russian infrastructure. Rule of law. And number four, it is unacceptable for me that on the pretext of a brutal terrorist attack by Hamas, we are all bystanders watching a genocide against the Palestinian people. Europe does not exist in this case either. It's not an arbiter. It's not a power that can say enough is enough. For a number of reasons, there have been United Nations resolutions on Palestine, just like on Cyprus, that have not been implemented because of the international inactivity. Dear Nikos, we're living in interesting times. No one counted whether 200 million faithful in Russia are indeed 200 million Orthodox. Coming up with a figure and claiming that the whole of Russia is Orthodox may be misleading. The country is big. The church, I don't know how big it is. The church is the church of the faithful. It's not a state church. Any more questions? Are there any more questions? Nope. So let me ask Father Emmanuel to wrap up this round table. And then let me ask the Dean to close the round table. The mic to the gentleman.
Good afternoon. I'm a student from Romania in the university here. And my question is for Mr. Sotiris Gounelas. I was impressed by what you said earlier. And my question relates to the two words you used, which are very important. The emptying and the renovation. Can you tell us a bit more about this move from emptying into renovation? This is the nucleus of Christian worldview. We start with what St. Paul says, that Christ emptied himself by taking on the body of a servant, of a slave. And this is the line for any Christian faithful. And we have image and likeness. Now, how we can achieve this is a different story, but this is how we should deal with this. It's a minority that understand this move from emptying to renovation. And I think we should go back to the gospel, and instead of theology, we should speak of theopraxy. In other words, not word about God, but action. With all churches, words are fine, but the action lags behind. Thank you, Sotiris.
So I think we have to conclude this round table, no? Dr. Migani, we're concluding it. So I think, thank you all. I think a lot of interesting things came out. Obviously, Christian values has been a main theme. We've discussed about this. We've also seen that maybe we have to be more specific in what Christian values are. We had here the proposal to make a list. When we did together this declaration that was signed yesterday, we decided not to enter into a definition of what Christian values are, because we wanted it to be acceptable and comfortable to all. But actually this is maybe a task we have in front of us. Very grateful for this distinction between roots and fruits, and the real root is Christ. Also, thank you to the professor for saying that maybe also using Christian values, something like this, might be an empty word. Thank you also to Feidas for also his criticism of the panel, because I think maybe in next panels we have to have a woman present, and young people also present as well. And thank you also to Ray for what he said about evolving policy. I think that's the context we're living now in Europe. And maybe the issue of churches being coherent is very important. And the non-coherence of churches and also of Christians, obviously it takes away a power, it takes away a witness, it takes away a possibility of also making Europe more Christian. So thanks to all. I'm very thankful also for this occasion of being here in Thessaloniki, to the university, to the Metropolis, and to I.A.O., to CEC. CEC has been very part of this organization. So thank you to all. No? Thank you very much.
Έλα, ένα μικρόφωνο εδώ στον Κοσμήτορα.
Θα ήθελα να ευχαριστήσω όλους τους...
I would like to thank all conference participants, students, colleagues, speakers, and distinguished friends. The important thing is in a conference is to meet people face to face. Any change starts from this encounter, because all differences can be examined through different eyes. We're very happy to host this conference, and with great joy we hosted this conference, because theological studies are not a workshop. It's not a bell jar or an ivory tower. They have to converse with reality, and this is what we have done here for the last 2 days. And this is the beauty of otherness, and even the intensity shows that we are real people. Christ is risen. May we live happily.
Λοιπόν, να πηγαίνουμε σιγά σιγά.
I think it's time to leave this room. We've been here long enough.